Welcome to our video on Jeremy Bentham, the father of classical utilitarianism. Bentham believed morality depends on the results of our actions, whether they produce happiness or reduce suffering. This became known as the greatest happiness principle. The right action is the one that produces the greatest happiness for the greatest number. Jeremy Bentham lived from 1748 to 1832. An English philosopher, jurist, and social reformer, Bentham lived during the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution. He believed that philosophy should improve society and that laws should be based on reason, fairness, and the well-being of all people. He's known as the founder of classical utilitarianism, and his major work is called An Introduction to the Principles of Morals and Legislation. He was an advocate for democracy, women's rights, and animal welfare. Known for his auto icon, his preserved body displayed at the University College London, Bentham was also quite a character. Let's put Bentham's version of utilitarianism into the historical context where it was created. So, Bentham lived during the 18th century, as I said earlier, during the Industrial Revolution and the Enlightenment. The Industrial Revolution brought about inequality and harsh working conditions. So when looking at the world around him, Bentham both saw progress, but he also saw this injustice in law and this poverty in society. And as a believer in the Enlightenment and its principles, Bentham believed that reason and science could reform society and could reform the laws. He sought to rationalize ethics and rationalize politics. He tied morality to this goal of improving life for the greatest number of people. Bentham believed morality could be studied like a science through observation and analysis. He argued that moral truths can be determined by examining which actions increase pleasure and reduce pain. So he's really talking about moral truths discovered through observation and through rational and empirical methods of gathering data. So he really did see it as a scientific type of endeavor. Now, remember that earlier we learned that hedonism values pleasure as the ultimate good. Bentham expanded this view to everyone, combining personal happiness with the concept of the common good to create utilitarianism. Perhaps Bentham's most famous quote is, "It is the greatest happiness of the greatest number that is the measure of right and wrong." This is Bentham's greatest happiness principle. And this principle defines moral worth through usefulness. If an action promotes happiness and reduces suffering for the greatest number, it's morally right. So we have to remember that moral actions are those that are going to maximize happiness and minimize suffering. And this is going to apply to everyone who is affected by the action. Now, the name of the theory, utilitarianism, gets its origin in that last line that you see on the slide. We're defining the moral good by its usefulness, by its utility. Bentham said, "Nature has placed mankind under the governance of two sovereign masters, pain and pleasure." So he's claiming that humans are motivated by pleasure and pain, and that morality depends on those sensations. Pleasure is good, pain is bad. Bentham proposed a hedonic calculus, this formula that he created to measure the moral impact of actions by intensity, duration, certainty, scope, and a few other factors. Again, we see this idea that morality can be analyzed scientifically. Here's a case study example where we can see Bentham's reasoning illustrated. The overcrowded lifeboat. 10 survivors in a lifeboat that can hold only 8. Should 2 be sacrificed to save the rest? Now remember, utilitarianism focuses on outcomes and not intentions. We're supposed to choose the act that results in the greatest net happiness, even when it involves moral difficulty. So, with the utilitarian analysis in this situation, we have to compare the happiness versus suffering and choose the option that produces the greatest overall good. So, there are strengths and attractions of Bentham's theory. It appeals to us for its simplicity and its inclusiveness. It applies this one standard, the happiness of all, and it links morality to practical reform. So we have this one clear universal moral rule. We can focus on outcomes and we can focus on fairness. It promotes the equality because everybody's happiness counts and everybody's happiness is equal. And we can see how that idea of equality is going to support reform and practical ethics and in politics. But there are also challenges and criticisms of Bentham's theory. Critics question whether happiness can be measured objectively and whether moral rules should ever be broken for outcomes. These debates led later philosophers like John Stuart Mill to refine utilitarianism. So on these specific challenges and criticisms, some of these questions are, can happiness actually be measured? Do the ends always justify the means? Can harming one for the sake of many ever truly be moral? And there's a problem that we're ignoring motives and ignoring the character of the person taking the action. Bentham's legacy and influence were profound. Bentham inspired reforms in law, education, and politics. He believed rational ethics could improve society and that all beings capable of suffering deserve moral consideration. He inspired John Stuart Mill's refinements of utilitarianism, which later became the most popular form of consequentialism in the world. He influenced modern democracy, education, and reform. He was an early advocate for equality and animal welfare, and his ideas continue to shape ethical and political theory. Here are some questions for us to consider in reflecting on Bentham's theory in modern contexts like law, healthcare, and technology. How should we weigh consequences while respecting moral boundaries? Can happiness and suffering truly be measured in moral decisions? Is it ever right to harm one person for the greater good? And how should we balance outcomes with intentions? All right, y'all, that's all for now. If you're interested in more videos about consequentialism, philosophy, and ethics, check out the videos posted on our channel. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.